Oh, yeah. Whoops.
No payroll.
Okay. No payroll. And therefore, let's just move past that. And so if you think about the broadening of the market, I would argue industrials have led the S&P all year. Utilities have been a kind of a go-go area to be. But the pharma small caps this week was great. People are looking for rotation. They are looking for opportunities to not be tied to what feels like a frothy trade. But I'm going to get back to, I think, outside of pharma, the big event for me this week were that semiconductors hit all-time relative high against the S&P. And the deal flow, the dynamics, and today we have more data center deals. We're going to have a great conversation about data centers later on in the show, so stick to that. But you have Fujitsu, Hitachi, Nvidia. You have all these guys that are global players getting involved in the data center. You had the OpenAI deal. You had different types of infrastructure investments into AI. So there's nothing about that that's letting up here. It does mean that the frothiness around the trade and the trade today certainly felt like you had the barbell of some of this value stuff. But boy, get into crypto, get into quantum, get into the parts of the real go-go FOMO parts of the market, and they closed basically at their highs.
And what you couldn't do is you couldn't trade off the payrolls number. So you don't have the volatility if you don't have anything to trade off of. So people don't trade off of a dull market. Not to say that this is dull, but the consistency of which it's gone up, there's nothing to stick it down now. No jobs number. Yields are pretty intact. So the 5, the 10, the 30. We've seen those cascade lower, and now we haven't seen them pop. They're not even back to 50% retracement yet. So I think people feel comfortable where the market's at. Mm-hmm. Someone like me, though, will say November, December, seasonally great months for the market. September, October, not great months. Do we do a reverse now? So now I'm starting to think, does the sell-off come later?
Oh, so we're pulling forward, basically.
Or has the sell-off just been avoided? Mm-hmm. With the government is shut down and the market has rallied. That we don't usually see that in the first couple of days of a government shutdown.
Right.
Do we throw a flag for a third-person reference when someone says someone like me might have?
Bob Dole made it possible.
Steve Grasso would say.
Yeah, I feel like.
That.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I was kidding.
What is sort of maybe heartening about this week, though, is that it wasn't the Mag 7 that was advancing, right? I mean, that's basically our point, that there's sort of a broader advance going on here, and maybe that makes you feel better about the levels that we are at.
Well, I think that's definitely constructive when you look at the multiple of the overall S&P. So if you're seeing a broadening out away from just the Mag 7, away from just AI and data center plays, away from just the adjacent utility plays, away from crypto, which, as Steve had mentioned earlier, has been quite volatile itself, I think that's actually supportive of expecting to see larger forward returns. So I think from that point of view, it's constructive. Listen, you're moving out of some of the beta now, but when you're moving into IWM, names like that, even on a relative basis, I get that it's playing the catch-up trade and has now hit this new all-time high. But I still think on a relative basis, if you want to kind of move away from the very concentrated tech part of the S&P, maybe you look at RSP. It still gives you a nice broad type of exposure, but you're not completely abandoning what has gotten you here to this point.